So you're thinking of moving to Queens, New York? In this video, we're going to talk about the good and the bad, the pros and cons of living in Queens, New York. Should you move to Queens? Should you not move to Queens? If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything about living in Queens, New York, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market in Queens, New York. My name is Cornell Smith with eXp Realty. We get calls and emails every day from people just like you looking for help on making their move to Queens, and we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All the information in the description below so we help you make a smooth move to Queens, New York. So as I mentioned, we're in Queens, New York. Queens is one of 5 boroughs in New York City. It's actually the second most populous borough. In terms of population size, it's Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, and the often overlooked, unforgotten Staten Island. As a longtime Queens resident, I often feel that Queens is often overlooked to, the city, aka Manhattan is what us New York City residents call Manhattan. And sometimes I feel like we're also overlooked by Brooklyn. It's Brooklyn in the house. So in this video, I'll make a case for why I think Queens should be held in as high or higher regards as, Manhattan or Brooklyn. But then again, I gotta tell you the downsides of living in Queens, New York. I'll start off with some of the pros, the good things of living in Queens. One pro of living in Queens is the diversity. Queens is known as the world's borough. Queens is home to over 2.3 million plus people, and according to census data, about 47% of Queens residents is actually born outside the United States. 100 plus languages are spoken in Queens, including English, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, Korean, Greek, Italian, and many more other languages. So, with all these different people from different cultures and walks of life, there's a lot of ethnic food options to choose from. Another pro or good thing of living in Queens is the suburban feel. So depending on what part of Queens you live in, I'll say it's probably more common in northern Queens, eastern Queens, and southern eastern Queens, where you live in a more suburban area. So that's neighborhoods, let's say like Cambria Heights, Laurelton, St. Albans, Jamaica Estates, Douglaston, and Whitestone. You have more of a suburban feel. So you can live in a neighborhood, on a quiet, tree-lined block full of single-family homes, nice-sized yards. Some homes may have garages too. So it's a great area for people, who have families who want to give them peace and quiet to have a home of their own, where they have their own space. And also, if you want to, host people and have gatherings in your home, you have the liberty to do so too. And living in Queens, you could live in a suburban neighborhood and still not be too far from the city action. You're never more than maybe, a bus ride, train ride, or highway away from being able to go to the city and have those options. So depending on where you live in Queens, again, you have the option of living in a suburban area, but also not being too far from the, the city life if you choose to do so. And then that brings me on to the next pro or good thing of living in Queens is its central location, in my humble opinion. So let's take Queens. To the east borders Nassau County, which is Long Island, and you can consider Long Island like a suburb of New York City. And then to the southwest of Queens, you have Brooklyn. And then fun fact, Brooklyn and Queens are technically on Long Island, but when we talk about Long Island in New York, we're generally referring to Nassau County and Suffolk County. Enough of that. So as I said, Queens is bordered by Long Island to the east, Brooklyn to the southwest, and then to the north of Queens, you have the Bronx. And then to the west of Queens, you have New York City. And like I said, you could get to these different boroughs or areas of New York if you're talking to Nassau County too, via subway, buses, major highways. Some of the major highways that Queens residents use is like Cross Island Parkway, the Grand Central Parkway, Jackie Robinson Parkway, Long Island Expressway, Van Wyck Expressway. In Queens, you also have many options to choose from mass transit, from the MTA buses, the MTA subways, and the Long Island Railroad. And also a fun fact, 2 of the 3 major airports in the New York, New Jersey metro areas are located in Queens. John F. Kennedy Airport is located in Jamaica, New York, or Jamaica, Queens, New York, and LaGuardia Airport is located in East Elmhurst, Queens. Another pro of living in Queens is the entertainment factor. So let's say you're a baseball fan. You can check out the New York Mets who play in Flushing, Queens at Citi Field. Are you a tennis fan? You can check out the US Open, which is usually held in September in Flushing, Queens at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Are you a fan of music across different genres? At Flushing Corona Meadows Park, which is not too far from the aforementioned Citi Field and Tennis Center, there was a nationally known and even internationally known music festival held Governor's Ball. Kendrick Lamar, Odessa, sorry if I mispronounced that, and Lizzo were the headliners. And not too far from all this is the Forest Hills Stadium in Forest Hills, Queens, which is an outdoor music venue where musicians perform outdoors, and also they have comedy shows too. Kevin Hart performed there not too long ago. Also in August, the Rock the Bells Festival, which is hosted by LL Cool J, is going to be at the Forest Hills Stadium to commemorate the 50th year anniversary of hip-hop music and culture. Speaking of hip-hop music and rap culture, if you're a fan of rap music and hip-hop culture, then you obviously know about Queens. I might be a bit biased, but I feel the best rappers come from Queens. Nas, 50 Cent, LL Cool J, Run DMC, A Tribe Called Quest, Nicki Minaj, Salt and Pepper, Ja Rule, Cool G Rap, just to name a few. Another pro of living in Queens is economy. Queens has a thriving economy. Queens is a hub for jobs in the retail, food, entertainment, manufacturing, healthcare, and transportation industries. So there are some of your pros and good things about living in Queens, but I gotta keep it real and tell you some of the cons and some of the downsides of living in Queens. One downside is the cost of living. So Queens is considerably less cheaper than, you know, the more lit or popular boroughs of Manhattan and Brooklyn, but Queens is still relatively expensive. Queens is on average more expensive than, you know, the rest of New York State, excluding the city, well, New York City, and Queens is more expensive than generally just about all elsewhere in the United States. Another downside of living in Queens, well, it may be for some, is the crowded lifestyle. So depending on where you live in Queens, it's more of a crowded, dense, urban feel. So if you don't like that and you prefer more of a suburban and rural feel, then that might be a downside for you. So I'd say central western Queens is probably more of an area where you see has more of an urban feel. So that could be neighborhoods like Astoria, Long Island City, Jackson Heights, Corona, Flushing, that's more of that urban feel. So you know, New York is a city that never sleeps, and you may be around some people that never sleep. Remember, Queens is very populous with a population of 2.3 million people. If Queens was its own city, not a part of New York City, Queens would probably be a top 5 or top 10 city in the United States. Another downside of living in Queens, I'd say, is the traffic and parking. So the symptom of being so populous and crowded, the traffic and parking can be a nightmare sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, there are times where I'd rather just stay home because I know I just don't want to deal with the traffic or having to find parking. So in a lot of area in Queens and New York City, all the boroughs in general, double parking is a big thing. And there are a lot of times where people are double parked on narrow blocks, making it hard for other cars to pass through, and it's infuriating. And then, like I said, the parking is a big deal in New York. You definitely have to know how to parallel park when you're living in New York. So you have to pay attention to the parking signs and everything. Is it metered parking? Is there no parking any time? Is there alternate side parking? Are those rules in effect? And if it's a holiday, is it a holiday where alternate side parking is in effect? Is it a holiday where meters in effect, or is it not? So that's something you have to think about and be aware of, because these tickets, you know, New York City needs to get its money. So I feel like they try to do that with, you know, ticketing us. Another downside of living in Queens is the commuter time. The average one-way commuter time in Queens is 43.6 minutes, compared with the 26.4 one-way commuter time average in the rest of the United States. So 51% of people take mass transit, 31.8% of people drive to work alone, 6.7% of people carpool with others to work. So I think that, the average commuter time is being longer than Queens. It's probably because we're so populous. There's a lot of traffic, and also I think with the subway sometimes there are a lot of delays. And I'm not gonna lie to you, something that is kind of being from Queens, just getting from like Manhattan to Queens late at night when trains run super local, man, that's something that a lot of people, I don't know if they want to deal with that. Just take it from me. Not too long ago, I did do that. Go from the city, obviously downtown Manhattan, to go back to Queens. So I got on the train. So at first when I got on the train, it was running express. So it was maybe about 10 to 15 stops away from home. Then in the middle of the train turned to local. And I was like, so it ran super local. And then, so like not too far from home, but there's more stops added to the train because it was running local. The train broke down. But luckily it broke down not too far from home. I just had to take an additional bus. It added to my travel time, but that's life. So there you have it. Those are the pros and cons, the good or bad of living in Queens. Some of the pros is the diversity, the suburban feel in certain areas, the urban feel in other areas, the central location, entertainment, sports, culture, and the economy. But some of the downsides of living in Queens, New York, depending how you feel about crowded areas, is the urban dense lifestyle, the traffic and the parking, and the commuting time. So are you moving to Queens, New York? Are you not moving to Queens, New York? Did I make my case for why you should come to Queens, New York? Let me know in the comments. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything about living in Queens, New York, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market in Queens, New York. My name is Cornell Smith with eXp Realty. We get calls and emails every day from people just like you looking on help for making a move to Queens, and we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All of the information is in the description below so we can help you make a smooth move to Queens, New York.